Greetings everyone, welcome back to a new video. A new video of me complaining. I want to talk with you guys for a second because I've been checking the newest news of Square Enix regarding Final Fantasy XIV, and it's specifically for job actions. Now I could also talk about the other ones, but today I want to specifically talk about VIPER. And the first thing I want to mention is that take this whole opinion of me for today's video as a grain of salt, because they have vaguely said something and the update is not out. So I could say stuff that is not going to come out and changes that I was just fantasizing in my head. So I would just be lying out of my ass when I'm talking about this right now. So this is mostly just very opinionated. With VIPER, they mentioned newly released in patch 7.0, we've received feedback pertaining to the busyness of their skill rotation. To that end, we're planning several improvements, including the easing of directional requirements and changes to the effects of several actions. We're aiming to implement these changes in patch 05, though we also intend to make some small adjustments to the range of certain abilities in 01. It will take a while longer, but we hope to address players' concerns as best we can. Really, guys? Really? You're calling VIPER a very busy job? You need an update where they need to include easing of directional requirements? This is the part where I'm going to say that it could mean two things. It could either mean the direction they want with VIPER regarding their like extra HUD button, if that makes sense, like the dual swords on the side, like which one you have to press next, that sort of thing. It could also simply mean the positionals, like rear, flank, that sort of thing. I'm mostly going to talk about the rear and the flank thing, because that's what I'm getting out of directional requirements, and especially the busyness of the rotation. And I'm going to assume people, because I actually did see someone post on Reddit, again, I think this is a grain of salt, someone who does speak Japanese was able to check out the outcries on the Japanese forums for Final Fantasy, because they usually take, Reddit is not important, they take all the feedback most of the time, 99% of the time, from the forums. And they did mention that the rotation is just very busy. There's a lot of like off GCDs, and people with ping issues will have trouble being able to keep up with the buttons. Now, I do want to say with the whole ping issue, it's kind of like a minority because it doesn't happen to many people. It does happen to some people and they will cry about it, and that's fair. But that's more of a you issue than the game issue. And aside from that, VIPER is not the only problem. Are we forgetting ninja mudras? If you have an actual ping issue, chances of you getting a bunny on top of your head is pretty big. Monks, they have one of the fastest GCDs. If you want to play another MMO, like WoW, Star Wars The Old Republic, or whatever, ping issue is going to be a big problem because their GCDs are even lower, you know? And I don't want Final Fantasy to turn everything into a 2.5 to 3 second GCD. That's ridiculous. They also complained about the whole job being too difficult. Like, it's just, there's too many things to keep up, which I can understand. There's a lot of buffs you need to keep up with. But my issue here is the game has been out, or at least the update, the expansion has been out for a week. Like, yes, I've been actually able so far. I don't play VIPER anymore at the moment. I've already got it to 100 and I'm leveling other characters. So I might forget some of the rotation right now. But by the time I was level 100, I was able to understand the rotation. I do understand, I understand that reading the tooltips and the way they describe combos and their special effects is hard. Before the DLC came out, before Dawn Trail came out, I wanted to prepare myself for VIPER. I didn't watch videos. I read the actual tooltips and some written guides, but I didn't understand shit. Let me head into the game for now. All right, we're now in the game. This is my beautiful character. Say hello to Gil. I'm actually very happy with how I made him. Right now, we have the recast time at the moment is 240. This will be lower because there will be a speed effect. What people need to understand is probably you need to figure out the positions where you want to place your abilities to make it easier. So, for example, the first issue people have is being able to keep up with the debuff. Now, there's several ways for single target for you to keep up the debuff. It's by either using Dread Winter or Pit of Dread. They both afflict Noxious Gnash. But I guess in the sense of, apologies, in the sense of single target, just forget Pit of Dread for a moment and just focus on Dread Winter. I'm also using, I forgot his name, but I'm using someone's hotbar, which makes it easier for me because Every ability is kind of close to what they need to be, like defensive and buffs are on the right side and the main abilities are on the left side. I hope it's also a little bit readable because the HUD is a little bit smaller maybe on your screen. And I will talk about the HUD specifically for Viper's abilities, because while I do feel like people are complaining too much about Viper right now, there are definitely some changes of Viper that I want to see happen. And I will get to that near the end of the video. So Dread Winter is the one that applies Noxious Gnash. There's a recharge time of 40 seconds before you can use it again, but you have 2 charges. This is a way to keep up the debuff. The other debuff is Dread Fangs. So that's pretty much it. You either have to use your Dread Winter, and then later on just focus on your Dread Fangs if you don't have any Dread Winter anymore and you need to keep up the debuff. It's understandable. Next thing is probably the positionals. See, I sort of play this actually, before I talk about the whole Dread Winter combo, I want to talk about the normal combo, Steel Fangs and stuff. The most important thing, because I'm already going to forget, you have Steel Fangs first, because why not? This button you're going to choose now between Hunter Sting and Swift Skin Sting, which is they both give you a separate buff for yourself. One gives more damage, the other one gives you more recast speed. They also basically tell you which will be your end combo. So if you choose the first one, I believe most of the abilities will look green. Yep, they are green, and they both require you to be at the flank. And then you go to the flank. This is for everything. If you go use Steel Fangs again, and then you decide to use Swift Skin Sting, you will be forced to use rear to maximize your DPS. And the game will also tell you that there's currently a bonus because you're following a certain rotation, and your Instinct Strike will do, you can see it, Flanks Bane Venom effect increases potency of Flanks Bane Fang by 100. So you do an extra 100 potency damage, and you need to do it from the rear. That's the most important stuff. And then obviously Death Rattle, you can use it afterwards. So it's basically, you can also do it like the other way around. You can use Dread Fangs first for the debuff. I guess in this sense, the combo is here right now. And if you use the first one, it will be green again. Because the second combo, the first button, will always end up with a flank. And again, I'll press Dread Fangs, I'll press the second button, it will end up as the rear. And you use it for the rear. With Dread Winter, you again have positionals. You have rear and flank. And then afterwards, these 2 abilities will turn into OGCDs. So for me, I just placed it for my easiness that the top side will simply be the rear. Because then you can see this button is Control 4 for me. You have to remember, this is 1, Shift 1, Control 1, 2, Shift 2, Control 2, name it. And then I have Control 4 and Shift 4. Because it's easier for me to see. And this one is on the upper side. So now I have Hunter's Coil, which is flank. And then I get the bottom side and the upper side. These ones don't have any positional, so you don't have to worry about that. That's basically it. Just Dread Winter. This one will be your rear. Up, down. This is basically how I did it. And then you've got flank. Down, up. That's basically how I place it. That's the only thing. So again, I get the rear one, up, down. In the meantime, I can already move to the flank side, and then I can do the other part. And that's all for the positionals. You will notice that as you do your buffs, so this one is for speed, this one is for your damage. You can see it on this side. So the damage is for me the left side, and for me the buff is on the left side. This is why I place them on the left side, because visually it's easier for me to understand which one I need to do. I can see the debuff is gone. I could use Dread Winter, but for now I'm just using the basic combo. It's basically telling you which button to press next. And you'll notice, as I'm doing this the whole time, just the basic combo, and I just literally follow what the light is telling me, debuff needs to be pressed again. Every time, you can literally see, I start with Steel Fangs again, because the debuff is way over time. I get myself ready for the flank. The buffs for yourself will always be just up to date. You don't really need to pay attention to it, because it will automatically happen. If you start using your Dread Winter, both these abilities will give you the separate buffs. And by just doing the combo, you'll have them both on 40 seconds again. And you'll just remember them. And that's pretty much it. So, trust me guys, Look, if anything, the first thing I did when I read the tooltip is complain to my girlfriend that Viper was going to be way too hard. But it wasn't. I took my time. It definitely took me like a good half an hour and an hour to set up my bars and to try and understand. And then it finally clicked. And then I was like, yes, this is what I want. It's not complicated. It's just there. It's not too simple, but I'm afraid they're going to make it too simple. The whole, like, just changing positionals, I feel like it's not needed. If you're really struggling and you know you're going to mess up, you can always start off your rotation with true north so that you can make sure that it's going to be okay. If anything, because it takes you two abilities to get to the first positional, this one should be the easiest one to learn. Dreadwinter, however, will have you combos and it will happen fast. So if you really struggle with the positionals, I recommend to use True North during your Dreadwinter combo. So you press True North, Dreadwinter, and then you have these combos, and you don't need to focus on the position because these happen straight afterwards each other, and it's much easier to not mess it up. True North just disappeared. I was able to use my combo just fine, and I was able to do my positionals, and that's it. I'm not going to talk about the whole Reawaken, but I just wanted to specifically talk about the positionals, the debuff, and your own buffs. Now, what I do want to talk about is there should be some things by Viper needs to change. What I do like about Viper is that the damage is consistent. There's not a low moment and a high moment, because I've mained the first few years and I want to get back to it, but it's going to give me arthritis again. I mained Ninja, and Ninja has usually every 2 minutes has the massive burst, an absolute ton of damage, and could sometimes out DPS any class. But their lows are too low. And then every 60 seconds, every minute, it was able to get like a medium amount of damage. And then the second minute, it was able to do high damage again. With Viper, I'm getting the feeling that Reawaken definitely has a bit of his highs, but there's not too many lows for Viper. These ones do so much potency already. You have these ones that already do 450, and these ones right now do 500. And then these ones will do 150 because of the combo, and 150 each. So you get another 300 potency off GCD. And then this one also, again, 500. So basically you get 800 within a full GCD cycle. That's a lot of potency. And then Reawaken has a lot. Just 700 for just pressing the button. And you can see the way I set up my bar. I literally need to press 1, and then my off GCD, 2, off GCD, 3, off GCD, Shift 3, off GCD. And in this case, I currently have Ouroboros on C, because that's the place I have my Reawaken. But you can also decide to put your Reawaken. If you use the same hotbar, same type of idea, just put it on Control 1, so it's easier for you to understand and see the button. So Ouroboros actually does a ton of DPS. Think about 1050. Obviously, it's not that much compared to any other ability. What I feel like Viper is missing is its big oomph ability, like an ability that does a screw ton of damage compared to everything else. The problem is Viper has a lot of abilities that already do so much damage that your high potency one, it's not going to be the biggest difference, because Reawaken already is 700 potency. These ones, if they are going to be executed by after Reawaken, and then you have all these other abilities, so you don't actually press another one, you press the one that's glowing, you do 600 potency with another 250 on the side. So just see it as 850 potency the whole time. And then you'll finally have this one, which does 1050 potency, which is a lot. It's definitely a lot, and it looks cool. But because every potency is very high, that 1050, it's only 200 potency more compared to your normal abilities, just with the off GCDs, and it doesn't have that big oomph, and that's I think what it's missing. But whether they can change that, I don't know. I definitely am satisfied with Viper. I definitely feel like it kind of misses that big ability, because obviously when I compare to Ninja, so Ninja usually has his normal combos, 220, 320, and then Armor Crush has 400 with the flank potency, and then you get some stacks, and then your Aeolian Edge gets 480 potency. It's below 500 potency. But then if you press your Kasatsu, which increases the damage of your next ninjutsu by 30%, and you have your Hyosho Ranyu, which is already 1300, it's a lot, and the sound effect is very... Oh, I'm too late. it's satisfying to use it, and you can see it does damage, because when you do normal dungeons or just normal mobs and nothing extreme or savage like, you can definitely see that bar go fast down. But with Reawaken and Viper abilities, it's consistently fast going down, and it doesn't have the big oomph. The other thing, and this is an actual problem, they need to reinvent the whole tooltip thing, because it's very hard to follow. It took me a long time to try and figure it out, especially because you're just naming new abilities and you're just naming them out of your ass. You got Rattling Coil, changes to Death Rattle, Last Slash, First Legacy, Second... You know, we got Twin Fang that changes into Twin Fang, Bite, Thresh, Uncoiled, when requirements for executions are met. Which executions? You're not always explaining that. You do, but it's very hard, because you need to look up an ability that gives you a very small text all the way down, changes to Twin Fang Bite after end of combo or something like that. And you're just there thinking, okay, so how do I get to the end of this combo in order to use this ability? And it's just a whole puzzle, you know, and that's my slight complaint. Obviously, it doesn't bother me as much anymore, because I have figured out how to do my buttons, and then I don't need to think about it anymore. It's the same as Mudras. The whole Mudras 10 Chi Yin thing can be so complicated, but if you, like I said, if nowadays I just have it on Chi Jin, for me is Hyosho, and then 10 Chi will always be for me my lightning attack. Oh, I guess, well, I already fucked it up. You know what? Screw you. My 10 Chi is always my Raiton, and then Huton is kind of useless now, but you get the idea. It's now, if you figure out that ninjas and mudras are based on how many mudras you do and how it ends, it's much easier to understand. But it doesn't tell you. Maybe in the quest it does, but right now it doesn't tell you in the tooltips. Make the ritual hand gesture for heaven, 6 seconds. Trigger the cooldown of weapon skills, mudra and ninjutsu upon execution. Conversely, execution of weapon skills triggers the cooldown of this effect. You're not telling me. I need to figure it out on my own, you know? And it's now easy to understand. I basically remind myself, like 1, 2 is for me Raiton. 1 is just my normal Fuma, but I never use that. Chi Yin is my Hyosho Ranyu. My 10 Jin Chi is my Doton. You know, that sort of thing. It's not easy to understand because I understand which button I need to press. But the tooltip and the looks of the abilities are very hard to comprehend. With Viper, the Dreadwinter, Pit of Dread, Hunter's Den, Swiftskin Den, some of these abilities look so close to each other. And now I'm not colorblind myself, but I can imagine some people are definitely struggling with being able to understand which buttons to press because they are so, like, they barely look any different, you know? That's the issue. This whole Twin Blood and Twin Fang tooltip is not enough to explain it. And that's the issue I'm finding with Viper. It's not the positionals, it's not the busyness of the job. Those are completely fine. The problem is that the buttons are very hard to follow because of the way they are colored and the way the tooltip is describing the words. Every time I read, when executions are met, I'm having the biggest brain fart because I don't know what execution you're talking about, you know? I just put in brackets which combo I need to do and then I'll be able to figure it out. But you gotta ease it up for some people because I can understand those outcries. Positionals though, don't talk to me. You know, I've played Monk for a while. I'm so sad they got rid of it because Monk's positionals back in the day was fine. And when Endwalker came, I was still used to the old positionals and I still did them, even though they're not needed. And even Monk has become easier now. And I just miss that sort of... It's a nice mechanic to have as a melee to just have those positionals because you feel active enough. Now, I mainly play PvP in any MMO, whether it be the Old Republic, WoW, Final Fantasy. I mainly do PvP, and I'm very used to moving around because it's to make sure that if people misclick me and click me off, they need to quickly put the mouse on me again. But because I'm moving, it might be just... It costs me that extra second for me to be able to do DPS. It's very normal, and you always want to keep yourself active so that you're ready to run if you need to, because sometimes that happens. But it makes it also fun when you're just doing bosses, because you can just do those positionals and you're forced to move around. I'd be so bored if I'm melee and I'm just on the same position doing my abilities, and the only time I move is when a boss is doing an raid wide or just an AoE on my location. or just a frontal AoE or something, and I need to move around, sure, but give me something, man. I'm guessing, the only thing I can maybe guess is that they're gonna remove the positionals of these two. I think the end combos will always be there, but these ones will be removed. If they're talking about that sort of direction. If they're not talking about positionals, keep it like that. But the job is already easy. This is the issue. The job is easy. You know, I don't understand. I'm so confused. The job is very easy. This like Black Mage sure is hard. Monk can sometimes be hard to keep up with. But this job, it's the GCDs itself are already slow enough for you to be able to do your off GCDs without any ping issues. You'll be able to do them just fine. Viper has been out for a week. Let it rest into your brain before you start complaining in the forums. Give it time. Let it sink in. A week's time is not enough for you to fully grasp maybe the idea of how Viper is supposed to play. Hell, I might be able to do my rotation, but I sure as hell don't know how to currently optimize it for content because the DPS is still consistent. I'll have to figure out when to use Reawaken, which when everyone's buffs are gonna be up during Savage or Extreme and stuff like that. But anyways, that's me talking about Viper. In my opinion, they shouldn't change anything but the way the tooltips work and the looks of the abilities because they confuse the hell out of people. Get rid of that, all right? That's all I'm saying. I'm gonna leave it here. I hope you guys had a good time though. I'm very good at complaining. But yeah, nah, just please don't do it, all right? Relax, take some time, all right? Take a pill and see how you really feel. Anyways, I want to thank you all for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'll see you all in the next video. Take care and peace.